I was sitting at my kitchen table at 3 in the morning, staring at printed emails that proved my wife was sleeping with another man while our children were being dropped off like luggage so she could sneak into a motel. I didn't scream. I didn't confront her. I didn't warn him. I just planned. And months later, his entire life was gone. If you've ever been betrayed by someone you trusted, if you've ever wondered what real revenge looks like, quiet, legal, and irreversible, hit that like button, subscribe, and settle in. Because this isn't a story about rage. It's a story about patience and consequences. This happened in the early 2000s, back when emails were slow, phones didn't track you, and secrets were easier to hide, or so people thought. My wife and I had been married for years, 2 kids, a routine, a life that looked stable from the outside. Our children were 4 and 6, old enough to talk, to remember things, to casually mention details without realizing their importance. That's how it started. Little comments. Mommy took us to grandma's again today. Mommy was gone for a long time. We stayed there until dark. At first, it sounded harmless. Her parents lived about 90 minutes away. But hey, grandparents love kids, right? Except it wasn't once a week. It was 2 times, then 3. Almost every day. She wasn't working her part-time job. Something in my chest tightened. When I asked her about it, she smiled too quickly. No, that's not true. She wasn't a good liar. She never had been. I didn't accuse her. I didn't argue. I just started paying attention. I wrote down her car's mileage one morning. Then again a week later. The math was brutal. She was driving an extra 400 miles every week. My hands went cold. You don't accidentally drive for 100 miles. That's intention. That's planning. That's secrecy. I knew something ugly was happening, I just didn't know how ugly yet. Then one afternoon, I sat down at our computer, and there it was, a yellow sticky note, her AOL password, written casually, like she never imagined I'd use it. I stared at it for a long moment. This was the line. Once crossed, there was no going back. I logged in. My heart was pounding so loudly I could hear it in my ears. Inbox. Sent mail, and then confirmation. Emails between my wife and her college best friend. They weren't vague. They weren't emotional. They were explicit, casual, almost bored. She was sleeping with an ex-boyfriend from high school, regularly. And the detail that stuck with me the most? Not the sex. Not even the lies. It was how she mocked his wife, laughing about her weight after having kids. That's when something inside me hardened. I printed the emails, every page, and hid them. Knowing that it was happening wasn't enough. I needed how, when, where, how long. I called an old friend, a cop. He listened quietly, then gave me a number. A former officer turned private investigator. Ron. Ron didn't waste time. I paid his retainer, gave him the emails, gave him dates, suspicions, mileage numbers, and Ron delivered. The report was thick. Photos, timestamps, addresses. It laid out her routine with chilling precision. She'd drop our kids at her parents' house, drive to meet him for lunch. They'd talk, laugh, then check into a cheap motel for a few hours. Afterward, she'd pick up the kids and come home like nothing happened. I sat alone reading that report. My stomach twisted, not from anger, from clarity. This wasn't a mistake. This was a system. I hired a divorce lawyer immediately. I grew up in a house destroyed by infidelity. I watched what cheating did to my parents, to my siblings, to me. I swore it would never happen to my kids. And then, turned my attention to the man who helped cause it. Ron dug deeper. The man's name was Bob, married, 3 kids. And here's where it got interesting. Bob worked as vice president of sales for his father-in-law's company. His entire life, his job, his house, his status was tied to the woman he was betraying. I didn't smile. I didn't celebrate. I just made one more request. I had my lawyer finalize the divorce papers. Then I coordinated something precise. On the same day my wife was served at work, Ron met with Bob's wife. He didn't threaten her, didn't push. He simply laid out the truth. Photos, dates, motel receipts. She listened quietly. What she did next was entirely her choice. According to public court records, She emptied their joint bank account, took the kids, left. Her father found out. Bob was fired, then evicted because the house belonged to her parents. Bob spiraled. There were fights, police reports, restraining orders. At one point, he showed up at the house, and her brother broke his nose. There were charges, jail time. Bob vanished. I can't find him anywhere now. His ex-wife, she went to work at her father's company, eventually took it over. I didn't ruin his life. I just told the truth and let consequences do the rest. That's the thing about betrayal. You don't need revenge fueled by rage. You just need patience and sunlight. If this story gave you chills, hit that like button. If you believe quiet revenge is the most powerful kind, subscribe. And tell us in the comments, what's the most devastating revenge you've ever seen, the loud kind or the silent one? Because sometimes the fire burns brightest when you never strike the match yourself.